Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to quickly show you how to use Cricut Design Space as a beginner or someone that's been using it for a long time. It can be pretty overwhelming. Also, Cricut has changed the layout in the canvas quite a bit, so even if you've been using Cricut Design Space for a while, I think this tutorial will be really helpful. I'm starting off in the home screen. You can toggle at the top between home and canvas. If you look right about the center here, Cricut recently came out with different options for the type of project you're doing. So let's say you're doing a vinyl decal. You can click on that, hit start designing. It'll make the canvas kind of fit for that type of project. I'll show you another example with a card. I personally don't use this, but I could see how it could be helpful. This has a 10x7 and you can even choose from pre-made cards. If you're new to Cricut, this could be helpful, but I personally like to just select the blank canvas. Before I go into that, I do want to show you one other button I use on this home screen. Over here to the left where it says My Stuff. Here you can find all the projects that you have made. If you've bookmarked anything, you can find that here. And there's also quite a few ready to make projects in Cricut Design Space. So once again, if you're new to this, you can grab one of those. To start a new project in the canvas, you can go up and hit New Project. Once again, you'll have those same project types here, or you can select blank canvas. Then you'll hit start designing. You can also just select blank canvas, and that's a little bit quicker, which I like a lot. Something new with Cricut Design Space, it comes up with this sidebar with image suggestions. I do not like this. It takes up part of the canvas screen and I'm constantly having to click out of it. First, I'll just show you this sidebar. This is just a new canvas. This is projects that you can choose from. Over here is shapes. There's free shapes and then there's some that's included with Cricut Access. There's images and these are all Cricut Design Space images. You can use these, or I'll show you in a little bit how to upload your own. If you click on advanced search, then it brings up all the images. You can search, you can go over here and click on filters. I do pay for Cricut Access and I do use the images sometimes, but the majority of the time I don't. It's totally a personal preference if you choose to pay for Cricut Access. Next is the text button. I will show you this in just a little bit. Next is the monogram option. When you see this little green A, that means this is only available through Cricut Access, so you have to be paying for that membership to use it. But you can just type in an initial and choose from a whole bunch of different options. Even if you don't pay for Cricut Access, you can play around with it in the canvas. Here's layouts. I never use this. If you're a Cricut user, have you ever used this? I never have. The next button is upload, and this is where you'll bring in your images and patterns. Also, there's a Create AI. I've never used this either. I don't know how long it's been on here, but it's not something that I use. I'm going to pull in a random image to show you how to work with this. I'm going to click out of here. Cricut Design Space used to have most of their edit tools at the top toolbar. Now you have to click on edit at the very top. I'm not sure why they did it this way, if there's a reason, but this is how it's working now. I just want to show you all these tools. First, if you look to the right, this is the layers panel. This is the most helpful part of Design Space, I feel like, because it shows you what's going on with your image and fonts. Right now, this is grouped together. If you want to work with individual layers, then you can come up here and hit ungroup. You can select this, or something that's somewhat new that I really like is there's this little white bar at the bottom, and you can also select it here, or you can right click and ungroup. I find that to be the least convenient. So let me go down here and hit ungroup, and you can see all the different layers for this image. It depends on the SVG or image that you upload. Some just have one layer, some have tons, some have a few. So we have all our layers here. Now I'll move over to this screen. This is the position that it is on Cricut Design Space, but I'll show you if we move this around, you can see the numbers move. I just don't use it. When I have just one layer selected, it's not going to have as many options, but if I highlight over the layers, there's going to be a lot more that pops up. Up here is the align button. I use this quite a bit when I'm designing certain things. I added a square so I can give you an example of this. I also grouped this ice cream cone back together. You can see that it says group. So what I'm going to do is the easiest way I find to select things in Design Space is to take my mouse and drag over it. You know that they're selected because both layers are highlighted in the layers panel. You can also select on a layer, hit shift on your keyboard and select the other layer. I do use this quite a bit too. Sometimes it's hard to drag over things that you don't want selected. Now with both of these selected, let's say I want this ice cream cone to be right in the center. I'll go to Align Center and it'll bring it there. I duplicated the ice cream, and now for some reason the Align button is at the top. I honestly don't know why it did that, but if you don't see it towards the left here, it's going to be at the top. And let's say we want to align these left, we could do that. Let's say you want it to be exactly even with each other. You can center vertically. You can also align to top or bottom. The arrange button is a really helpful tool when you're trying to design something and want it to be all uniform and lined up. There's also the arrange button up here. This is if you're wanting to bring something to the front or back. Sometimes in Design Space, it'll pull up like this and you'll wonder where your ice cream went. You can see in the layers panel, it's below the square. So you can click on the square and send it backward or to the back. Another thing you can do is just slide it in the layers panel, and that makes it really easy too. Next is the effects button. I use the offset tool all the time. I use it for print thin cut. It also gives really cool effects for designs. To use that, you click on it and you'll see this thin outline. That is showing you the size of the offset, but you can make it smaller or bigger. Then you can hit apply and you can see it creates another layer. It always comes up with this gray color, but you can go in and change it to any color that you like. I pulled in a random image because sometimes the offset doesn't always work that perfectly. If I hit this, hit apply, you can see it doesn't totally shade it in. So to fix that, you can click the contour button. You can hit that here or at the bottom right. I find it convenient since I'm already working in here to select that. You can go in and individually select each one, or you can hit hide all contours. It will automatically keep the top one, which is the one we want. I'll hit apply, and now it's all filled in. You can change the color to what you want. Next, I'll show you the sticker button. This doesn't have the little A next to it, but I believe it is for Cricut Access users. I do have a tutorial where I go in depth with this, so I can link that, but I'll quickly show you. You have your choice of kiss cut or die cut. With the die cut, it's going to cut all the way through the backing. Let me just click on Kiss Cut. You can choose to add a border or not, but with stickers, I think I always do a border because it makes it a lot easier for it to cut it out. You can also choose for the thickness of the border to standard, wide, or you can make it custom and choose it yourself. One thing that I do really like about the sticker option is it works a little bit better than the offset tool. You can choose whatever color you want for your background. Like I said, that was a quick overview of that, but I'll link the other video that I have. You can also go down here and hit undo sticker. There's also the warp button. This is Cricut Access also. You can do it with images. I don't think it works too well with that. What I like to use it more is fonts. You can adjust it, which is kind of nice if you want just a slight curve. And if you decide not to do it, you can hit undo warp. I must have skipped these, but it also might have been at the top toolbar. But here's the rotate button. You can increase it and see how it's rotating. You can select 90 and do a 90-degree rotation. How I typically like to do it is hover over here. You can see a little curved arrow, and then I can go in myself and do it. I do find it harder to make it exactly 90 degrees, so that could be helpful to type it in. Or you can hit Shift on your keyboard and start turning it, and it makes it a lot easier. I do not understand Cricut Design Space sometimes because these buttons up here, the flip was just right here and now it's not. So if you're looking for a specific button, look in the left panel and the top. But up here we have flip horizontal and then there's flip vertical. At the top here is all the different options that your Cricut can use. Right now it's set to a basic cut, so the Cricut machine will just cut this out. Wherever you see grid lines in here, that is going to be open space where it's cut out. There's options for the wavy blade and the perforate blade. Those are for the Cricut Maker machines. Then you can go down to draw. There's a pin option, and you can choose what pin you're using, what color. Up here is all the different types of pens. There's also markers, things like that. You'll just want to select whichever one you're using. There's also the foil button. This is with the foil transfer tool. There's the score button, and you can see it does little dashed lines. That's for folding. Deboss and engrave are both for the Cricut Maker machines. And there's print and cut. This one doesn't show the print and cut too well. Let me go back to the ice cream. Just grab a random one. When I click on print and cut for this, you can see it changes the look of it. I'm going to hit ungroup. On this left side, there's a lot of other options here. There's the option to weld. This merges the shapes together. As you can see, it says the action cannot be undone. So if you save your project and close out of it, when you come back to it, you cannot unweld it. So not too long ago, they came out with this Unite button. This essentially does the same thing. It combines the objects together, but you can edit it, which is very nice. This is not the best example for weld, but I'll show you what it looks like here. I pulled up a different ice cream cone to make this easier to look at. Let me move this out of the way. Here's a whole bunch of sprinkles. Let's say that we want just the sprinkles to be in the cone and not all these different layers with it. To do that, you'll want to use the slice button. So let's try highlighting over all of this. You can see that it doesn't give us the option to slice. And if you look at the bottom right, the slice button is grayed out. You can only slice 2 layers at a time. So this is when I really like to use the weld and unite button. what I'm going to do is go over in the layers panel, and I am going to hit shift on my keyboard and select all of these sprinkle pieces. Then I'm going to hit unite. It's going to change it to one layer. Now when I highlight the actual ice cream and the sprinkles, the slice button will appear. You can see it right here. There's so many different ways you can click slice. The option here, you can go down to the bottom right, or you can right click. I'm going to go over to the left and select it. When you hit slice, it looks like nothing happened, but that's when the layers panel is super helpful. You can see it says slice result. You can just delete those. And now we have all the sprinkles sliced out of there. Cricut also not too long ago came out with the subtract, intersect, and exclude buttons. I have an in-depth video for that. I will say I'm constantly in Cricut Design Space and I never use these buttons. I'm not going to explain them here, but I will link that video. Also in the layers panel, there's an option for material colors. If you want to change the sprinkle colors, you'll need to hit ungroup. I'm just going to select on one. I can select the color option. At the top here is all the colors that are in our project. The bottom is just the preset colors, and you could go to advanced and choose from whatever color you want. You can put in your own hex code. If you want to change these colors, sometimes it's kind of a pain to go into each one individually. So to make it a lot easier, you can go to the material colors. This is so nice. Let's say we want them all to be this color. You can just drag those into there and it makes it so easy. At the bottom, we have similar buttons to the left. I have not talked about the attach or flatten. So you have group, attach, flatten. Times that I like to use the group button is when I'm resizing something. So with this ice cream cone, let's say I want to make it 3 inches. I am going to highlight over the whole thing and group it together. Then when I come to the top, if I hit 3, it will all stay uniform together. Next, for the attach button, if you click that, it'll change it all to the same color. In Cricut Design Space, when you go to the Make It screen, it will separate each color by a different mat, but it'll do it randomly if it's just grouped together. I'll show you an example with just these two. Let's hit the Make button. You can see it brings it up here, but I want it to be down here. So let's bring it back. I'll highlight over both, then I'll click attach, and it has that little paper clip because that's essentially what you're doing. You're paper clipping it together. When you go to the Make It screen, now it is attached where you want it to be. The flatten button is for print and cut projects. Right now, this is set to a basic cut. If we go down here and hit print and cut, then it looks like you're good to go. But there are all these different layers in here, and the Cricut is going to go and try to cut out every single one of those layers. So what you need to do is come down here and hit flatten. Doing that will only cut around the outside of the ice cream cone. Whenever I'm doing print and cut, I always make sure I flatten all my layers of the image together. There's another button down here that says background color. If you want to see the background a little easier, you can change it, which is nice. You can also change these grid lines. There's this little section in the top left corner. If you click it, it will change the look of it, or you can just get rid of it altogether. Now let's say you want to upload your own image or something from a website outside of Cricut Design Space. You'll click on upload. It shows the compatible file types. I like to look for SVGs when I'm cutting on the Cricut machine. When I'm doing print and cut, I look for PNGs. So let's upload an SVG file. I'm over on Creative Fabrica's website, And let's say I want to use this file. I'll click download. On the top right, I just unzip the file. You can see it here in my downloads folder. Most come with a PNG and an SVG. Now I can upload that image. I'll just double click, hit continue at the bottom, then upload, and it brings it into Cricut Design Space. You can see it's grouped together. To see all the layers, you can hit ungroup. This one actually has 2 more layers that need to be ungrouped. Like I said, some have just a few layers and some have a ton like this one. Now let's say you want one for print then cut. You could use the SVG for print then cut and flatten it, but here's a good example for something for print then cut. That was a PNG, so when it pulls in, it looks a little different. You do have an option to make it a single layer, or you can use this tool that makes it basically into an SVG. That is for Cricut Access users only, but I want this to be a flat graphic. That's really pretty. With Cricut Design Space, you are limited to size on print then cut. You can see this little exclamation mark on the side. That's saying that it's too large. So if I auto resize, it'll bring it down to the size it can fit on the sheet. So if I hit the make button, this is what it's going to look like on an 8.5 by 11 size. If you have a bigger printer that prints legal, tabloid, A3, then you can print it a little bit bigger. The reason why it can't fully fit on a page is because of the registration lines that pops up. Let's say you want to upload a pattern. I searched digital backgrounds in Creative Fabrica, and let's try this one. While you're in the uploads, if you click on pattern fill, then you can upload that pattern. Let's say I want this pink one. I'm going to double click. You can name it pink marble upload. It says pattern upload is successful, but it won't show up under recent uploads. I'll show you how you can use this. Let's say we want to have that background in this square. You need to change this to print then cut. Then you'll click on the color and it gives you an option for pattern. Here's the patterns I've uploaded, and there are some that are in Cricut Design Space already, but the most recent one you upload will show up at the top. So you can click that and it'll pull it into the square. How cool is that? It makes it so easy. You can also edit the pattern if you want to make the design bigger or smaller. I'll click out, and that's a really nice tool to have. Next, I'll click on text to show you the fonts. At the very top here, if you want to change your font, you can click on that. It's going to show up on the side again. It shows Cricut fonts, but then you can go to System. These are fonts I've downloaded onto my computer. You can just select one. Then you can drag it to make it bigger, or you can go up here to your width and height to change the size. I can just type in my name. I can change it and figure out which one I like the best. You can click on edit. There's some tools in here you can use. You can ungroup to letters. So let's say you want to make the K bigger but not the rest. You can add an offset, which can be really cool for decals. You can warp this, which can be kind of fun. This script font is not the best for any of these warp images. If I type in hello Kayla, I have some other options here. I can adjust my line spacing so I can bring it closer together. I can also adjust my letter spacing so I can move my letters either closer or further apart, which is nice. And now I have the option to ungroup to lines as well. So I'll have these separate if I want that. If you want the Cricut to draw, you can click on a Cricut font. You can go to this little tab here and select writing. It'll show up with the writing font options. Here's what this looks like. You can see it's set to pen. When I do writing projects, I do typically use Cricut fonts just because it makes it a lot easier. And they have a lot of different options in here, but you do usually have to pay for it if you don't have Cricut access. Let's say you want to download a font. I am going to choose this one. I'll just hit download. I'm going to select on this to unzip the file. I do need to install it, so I double clicked on it and I hit install. On my Mac computer, I can double click on the font and it shows me what it looks like. What's really nice about this though is I can grab any specialty fonts. These are the ones that have the fun swishes. So back in Cricut Design Space, if you try searching for that font, let me get rid of this and go to System. It's not going to show up, and that is because I had Cricut Design Space pulled up when I downloaded the font. A quick way to do this is make sure your project is saved. Then you can go to New Window. You can go back into whatever project you were in. I don't need to save mine, but now it should pop up. And here it is. To use one of those fun letters, I will go back to my font book. This is on a Mac. It would be different on a Windows, but I'm gonna type in my name. I have my font book selected, and let's say I want this Y. I can click it and hit copy. Then in Cricut Design Space, I can highlight over my Y and I'll hit Command V to paste. And look how cool that is. You have the fun swish to really add to that font. I pulled this ice cream back in so I can show you the Make It screen. At the top, I have my Maker 3 selected. You'll want to select whatever Cricut machine you're using. I'll hit the Make button. Here's the different mats. And like I said earlier, it'll separate it all by different colors. Let's say I'm using vinyl to cut this out on. This is set to 12 by 12, which is the typical size for vinyl. If I'm doing, let's say, cardstock and it's regular paper size, you can go in and change that to like 8.5 by 11. I'll hit continue. Right here, I have my bookmarked Cricut settings. But when you click Browse All Material, it gives you all the options for whatever you want. Let's say we're just using vinyl. I'll select on that. I do use the pressure button pretty often. If my blade's a little dull, I'll click More to make sure it cuts through a little bit easier. When I go to the Cricut machine, it's showing that my white vinyl will be cut first, so I'll put that on my Cricut mat first. Then I'll just follow the rest of the prompts. If this was print and cut, I'll flatten it and I'll show you what that looks like. It's on an 8.5 by 11. First, it'll tell me to send it to the printer. It gives you the bleed option. I like to keep this on if you have color. It helps prevent any white showing. And I always click my Use System dialog, because here you can choose your print settings, and I always change my quality to best. Then you can hit print. Once it's done printing, you can click out of that. Then you can choose whatever cut setting you want. Let's say we're doing sticker paper, then I would choose this one. I realized I didn't talk much about the size. Right here is the width and height. I like to go off of width most of the time. It depends on the project. Let's say we want this ice cream cone to be 5 inches. This is locked right now. When I change it to 5, it'll automatically adjust the height, which is typically what you want, so it doesn't make the image look all weird. So I'm gonna type in 5 and hit enter, and it automatically adjusts the height. If you want to adjust both, let's say I'm using the square. Right now, if I hit the 4, it'll automatically adjust it. But let's say we want it to be 4 by 6. I'll just hit the unlock button and I'll type in 6. I also forgot to show the guide tool. I use this all the time on projects. Let's say this is a blank I'm using and I want the ice cream cone to fit right inside. I use this to figure out my sizing, and it's really great. Then I know exactly what size I want my ice cream cone. I tried to cover as much as I could in this video. Let me know if you have any Cricut Design Space questions. Hopefully this helped with the new layout as well. I hope you found this video helpful. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I would love it if you subscribed if you are new to my channel.